Hello, Put Me in Coaching family. I hope everyone is having a fantastic start to the year. It's already January 4th. We are moving right along. So I hope everyone had some time to really think about the goals they wanted to set for themselves and really get very specific so that, again, we know goals have to be measurable, right? They have to be specific. It can't just be, I want to do this more or I want to get better at this. You need to write the vision and make it plain. We have said that so many times over the last year. We're at a new year, and we're going to continue to say it, right? Because repetition is what really drives things home. So if you're watching live, go ahead, just drop a hashtag live in the comments. If you were watching the replay, go ahead and drop a hashtag replay. I saw Valerie on here watching some replays the other day. So shout out to you for that. Really proud of each and every one of you for continuing to show up for yourselves. Not only in the new year, right? Because everybody shows up in the new year. Everybody says, new year, new me. But guess what? We set the stage last year going into this year so you can just continue to make progress, right? You're not having to start from scratch. And that's huge because I can remember when I started from scratch, right? It was a big deal. I had to make a lot of changes. Now, there are times where I need to tighten things back up and yeah, I need to do a little bit better, right? Without being measurable, but I need to do what I need to do. However, I'm not having to relearn everything because I dove into step 2 of the 7-step signature system, which is education, right? So I know what to do, but it's a matter of behavior modification and applying it. And what's great is now when we know better, we do better, right? So it's very easy for me to know, hey, this is probably not going to be the best decision. I might not wake up and be where I want to be, right? Now, we've also heard that how you do one thing is how you do everything. But I also heard somebody say the other day, and I kind of agree with them on this, that I don't think that's necessarily true. Right. And that's what I want to talk a little bit about tonight, because that's why we have to be so specific with our goals and the behaviors that are going to get us there. Because if we go with the notion of how you do one thing is how you do everything, think about that, right? Most everyone here has a job and is pretty successful at their job, right? You show up, you get good reviews, right? So if how you did one thing is how you do everything, then how come it's not necessarily as easy to stay on track with the diet and exercise and all of that, right? It's what we focus on. There's that pesky behavior that receives attention is behavior that's repeated. And I want to say that again. Behavior that receives attention is behavior that's repeated. And so that is the most important thing when you are setting your goals. You have to say, what am I giving attention to? What am I focusing on? Right? This last year, I've been really focused on building my business. And so sometimes that meant that my health maybe took a little back seat, not a totally and completely back seat, right? Because I got some great news regarding my health at the end of the year last year. So I wasn't totally off track. I just wasn't as focused, right? Because it meant staying up later some nights. And so that meant not necessarily waking up 7 days a week to go to the gym. I might make it 4 or 5 days, right? And so these are things that when we're doing behavior that receives attention is behavior that's repeated. And so when you get laser focused on what it is you want to do and what the goal is that you want, that's where you're going to see massive success, right? How did I lose 113 pounds, right? 1 pound at a time. And it's because I was laser focused on what do I need to do, right? What does my formula need to look like? What does my food log need to look like? This is what I'm pouring all of my attention on, right? And now there has to come a time where there's got to be balance, right? but maybe it's okay for the next 3 weeks. This is my main focus, right? Or the next 90 days, right? You've heard of the concept of a 90-day run. Okay, so for the next 90 days, this is what I'm focused on, right? With no excuses, no distractions. This is what I'm focused on, right? And that's where we can start to really see those changes come into play, right? Because, and I said this last week, every time you choose discipline over comfort, you're voting for the most successful version of yourself. And that discipline, that's the behavior modification. So, step 5 of the 7-step signature system, right? That's the behavior modification. But then because you're so focused on it, you're choosing, you're making a conscious decision over and over and over again to focus on whatever the goal is that you are working toward. Right. And then you have the bigger picture, your vision. We worked on that a couple of weeks ago, right? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? And what are the goals this year that are going to help you get there? Right? I've got a huge goal with my business this month. So it's incredibly important that I focus really hard on that, right? It's incredibly important because that's where I'm at, right? So I know that that's where I need to put my energy, right? And so I'm committed to doing things that I haven't necessarily been doing the last couple of months, right? So these are my goals, right? And I've written them out. They're on my whiteboard right behind me, right? And so I'm looking at them constantly, right? And now many of you have been doing this with me for years and years, right? And it actually was interesting because somebody that I work with actually was really excited because she came across this book and she's like, oh my gosh, it's a word of the year. Like, I really need to focus on my word of the year. And I said, oh, that's great. I'm so excited that you're doing that too, right? This is something I've been doing, and I didn't tell her this, but as like I've been doing this since 2016 when Catherine introduced me to it, right? And so I can look back at all the words that I've had throughout the years, and it's incredible how they've showed up and continue to build on each other, right? And so this is where it's gonna be. I'm so excited about this year because of the word that I've chosen. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but I am showing up as that word every year this year, or every day this year, sorry. Every day this year, delivering the high level, right? I'm carrying myself that way so that it's going to transpire and transmute. I don't know if that's a word. I know that's a word. I don't know if that's the right word, but we're going to continue to level up together. You see my sign right back there, level up, right? And this is where it's so important because we all have to figure out what's that one goal, 1 to 3 goals that you're really laser focused on for the next 90 days. And then guess what? The next 90 days, you can set a new goal, right? But if we're never setting goals, if we just get complacent, then in 5 years, where are we going to be? We're going to be in the same place that we were in today, only a little worse off because we'll be 5 years down the road with really nothing to show for it other than, okay, we've let another 5 years pass. Right. And I'm not willing to do that. Right. I want to continue to level up. I want to continue to pour in to my clients, to my community, right, to my legacy. Right. I want to continue to pour into that. And how do we do that? We show up as the best version of ourselves, right? Every time you choose discipline over comfort, you're voting for the most successful version of yourself. Now, funny story. I actually went to the gym this morning. I didn't want to. I really didn't want to, but that was like ringing in my head. And so I pressed play on my YouTube video. As soon as I pressed play, I was like, okay, I'm up. So I get to the gym and my key card won't work. And I don't know why it says active on the thing. The money came out of my bank account. So my membership's active. So I don't know why it didn't work, but it just didn't work. Right. And so I took that as a sign. Hey, maybe it's a day that we need to rest. And so I took it to kind of refocus on some other things that I needed to get done. And I got some things done today. Right. Which is a far cry from last week where I was kept saying, oh, I need to do this. I need to do that. And not everything got done. Right. So when you think about that, right, I could have been really upset, really mad. And it was like, you know what? We're just going to pivot, right? Because that's what people that can live at that high level, they don't let one little thing ruin their entire day. And I actually almost forgot that that happened until I'm sitting here talking to you, right? Because it just was such a non thing, right? Because it doesn't matter. Because guess what? I've worked out almost every other day this week. So I didn't have to work out today. It wasn't a big deal, right? And that's because the discipline just kicked in, right? I don't let little setbacks get to me that much, right? And so I say all that to say when we're writing our goals, we have to be flexible because you're going to have obstacles, right? And it's how you prepare for those obstacles that is going to determine how successful you are. Right. So I want to write this out. And I said this a few weeks ago, but I think it's important. Again, repetition, we have to flex the repetition muscle, right? But when you have a goal, right? So when you just have an idea or goal, so you've written it down, right? You've written out your 1 to 3 goals. You've got a 10% chance of them happening just because you made the goal and you wrote it out and you put it out there, right? But then guess what happens when you consciously decide you're going to do it? That percentage increases to 25%. When you just consciously decide, you opt in. Step 1 of the 7-step signature system, you opt in. You just consciously decide you're going to do it, 25% chance of it happening. Then guess what? When you decide when you will do it, you put a timeline to it, you make it specific. You put a timeline. So all of my goals back there have dates on them. Right? You decide when you're going to do it, that percentage increases to 40%. Now, what I also know, 40%, yeah, that's not the greatest. But if you are a 30% success rate in baseball when it comes to hitting a baseball, you make the Hall of Fame. Right? So deciding when you'll do it, putting that timestamp on it, 40% chance. Planning how you will do it, the behavior modification, step 5, and the tracking, right? Because you have to plan how you're going to do it. Now you have a 50% chance that it's going to happen. And then guess what? When you commit to someone else that you're going to do it, so this is why it's important to write the vision, make it plain, assign a timeline, decide when you're going to do it, and share it with someone, right? That percentage increases to 65%. And then adding a specific accountability appointment with the person you've committed to makes it 95% that it's going to happen. 95%. Now, if you got diagnosed with something and they told you got a 95% chance of curing it, you're probably going to do that. 95%. Just by taking it from committing to somebody that you're going to do it to setting a specific appointment with that person to check in with your progress, right? I'm in a mastermind and that's what we do every week. We're checking in. with our accountability. And I have another coach that I check in with every week, right? Because it's that important. It increases my chances that much more that it's going to happen. 95%, y'all. So write the vision, make it plain, set a timeline to it, commit to it with someone else, and then set an appointment with them. 95% chance that it's going to happen. All right. And then I want you to remember, what happens if you don't achieve the goal that you're working toward? What are you going to lose if you don't achieve the goal that you're working toward? Because that's just as important as what you're going to gain from it. Right? What will you lose if you don't do this? Right? Maybe it's time that you'll lose. Maybe it's confidence that you'll lose. But guess what? When you do it, you're going to gain that confidence. You're going to gain that time. Right? So ask yourself, as you're defining your goals, what's at stake? What am I going to lose if I don't do this? Figure out what the obstacles may be and how you're going to navigate those obstacles. And then get so focused and so accountable to yourself and to someone else about these goals, and you have a 95% chance that you're going to reach your goals. And guess what? Maybe you don't meet it right on the exact day that you said, but because you've defined it and you've made it specific, you're working toward it, and you're going to be that much closer. And then you just move the date. Right? I had to do that with one of my goals I set for December, right? I didn't hit it, right? And so I had to reevaluate. No big deal. I'm still a lot closer than I was when I set the goal. So I just have to reevaluate and reset it and move the date. No big deal. Nobody's mad at me, right? It was a lofty goal. And I ran hard to get there. We just missed it a little bit, but that's okay. It doesn't mean I don't have the opportunity to still achieve the goal. Right? I just have to keep working at it and just change the date. All right. So there's nothing you can't do, right? And there's nothing you can't have. It's just a matter of how much and how often, right? Do you need to adjust and make that balance, right? So it's time to level up our lives here in 2026, right? And start living above that line. Live above the accountability line to yourself, and just make a commitment to yourself, and then find an accountability partner to make a commitment to, and check in with them regularly towards your goals. And you've got a 95% chance that 2026, you're going to see everything you want and more come to fruition. All right. So I am so proud of each and every one of you. We will be back. We will not be discussing goals next week. So we'll be back here with another topic. So if there's something you'd like to see, please reach out to me and I'm happy to cover that. If not, I'm going to see what comes up during the week and we will just go with that. But so proud of each and every one of you. I know each and every one of you will hit your goals this year beyond your wildest dreams and move you that much closer to your 5-year vision. So I appreciate you all. Cannot wait to see what 2026 holds. And I hope everyone has a fantastic week. And I will talk to you soon. Bye, everyone.